Welcome to 365 Brothers, the podcast. I'm your host, Robin Shine. I am delighted to bring to you brothers from across the United States and from various professions talking about their life experiences, their wisdom, and a conversation that also touches on racial profiling in the United States, how pervasive it is, what the impact is. And remember, you can follow us on Instagram at 365 Brothers. Also, follow us on Facebook at 365 Brothers, the podcast. If this is your first time listening to a 365 Brothers episode, make sure you subscribe because you do not want to miss one brother's wisdom, one brother's experience, and their perspective on life in the United States. Today, we're speaking with a gentleman who is originally from Memphis, Tennessee. He got his bachelor's in nursing, a Bachelor of Science in Nursing from the University of Memphis. And he also has his Master of Science in Nursing. And he's currently in a Doctorate of Nursing program with a specialization in surgery. And he currently resides in the Bay Area. Today, we have the privilege of speaking with Mr. Demarcus Stevenson. Welcome. Hey, Demarcus.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Soon you'll be doctor.
After 2 years and counting. It's been a long time coming.
I love it. You know, I'm interested in sharing the lives of brothers from a variety of professions. And I was so excited when my BFF, I reached out to her and said, are you a pediatrician? Don't you know I haven't interviewed any Black men who are in the nursing profession. Who you know? And she didn't even take a second. She was like, oh my gosh, I can't even believe I never mentioned Demarcus to you. And so I'm just really excited that we got connected that way. And as always, I'm going to use this opportunity to say to my listeners and my viewers, I'm always looking for guests. So if you know someone who would make a fantastic guest, someone that people should hear their voice, they're a Black man who lives currently in the United States, please go to 365brothers.com and have them fill out the guest information form, or they can just reach out and contact me at shine@365brothers.com. That's SHYNE at 365brothers.com. And so having said all of that, let us jump right in, Demarcus. My first question is, what is a favorite song or movie, either right now or all time?
I think my favorite movie of all time has to be Love and Basketball.
Okay, tell me why.
I know. I mean, I remember being a junior in high school when the movie came out, and me and a bunch of friends went to see it. And it's just the triumph, the background, the love story. It was just amazing. To this day, 20 plus years later, it's still one of my. I can watch that movie 3-4 times in a row. Big fan of Sonali and Omar Epps. I always have.
Okay.
Right.
What is it about the storyline? I mean, you said some of the general key points, but what is it about that storyline that keeps you?
Like they started off as childhood friends, and they grew up together. They dated, they separated, and then in the end, they ended up back together. It was just like fate. You don't see that a lot.
Sounds like the ultimate soulmate story.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I mean, they went through obstacles, they dated other people, and then they ended up back together in the
end. Yeah, we all love a good story that ends like that. You know, when you believe certain people are fated, and then bam, you know, it actually works out. I feel you. Well, let me ask you now about a favorite moment from your childhood.
A favorite moment, and some people be like, how do you still remember that? I remember being 5 years old and my uncle taking me to the hospital to meet my little brother for the first time. I just remember him just crying, and then when my mom put him in my arms and he just smiled at me. And to this day, 30 plus years later, I can still remember that. I still remember him crying. I still remember the smell of him. I can just relive that moment. For some reason, I never forget that moment. And it's one of my favorite all-time childhood memories.
So tell me a little bit more about your relationship with your brother.
So, me and my brother, We grew up together, shared a room together until I was like 10, maybe. You know, brothers fight, but we always had that love for each other. We were best friends, you know. I only had one brother. My brother passed away a couple years ago, but
Okay.
to this day, he's gonna always remain my best friend.
Mm. You know, the reason I asked that is because when you describe remembering that first moment of holding him, of having him smile at you, it just sound, I mean, feel like y'all knew each other already. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And yeah, go ahead.
I can it's like I still have moments where I can just feel him and smell him and just sense his spirit.
Mm-hmm.
I have a nephew. He left me with my brother, sister-in-law, and niece were all killed in a car accident. My two nephews
Oh,
survived. So
okay.
my nephew was 1 at the time. It happened a day after his first birthday. My other nephew was 6. They both survived the accident. So it's like being around, they're both in Tennessee, being around my 9-year-old, which is his biological child. It's just, when I'm in his presence, I just go back to our childhood and when we were younger and I can just feel him. I feel like my nephew's been here before, so I feel like my brother's living through him at that moment.
Yeah,
You get what I'm saying?
yeah, I
He's
got you.
just so ahead of his time. I'm just like, how do you
Mm-hmm.
know stuff in certain words and certain things? How do you know that?
Yeah,
You're 9 years old. You should know that.
I understand. And my condolences
Thank
on,
you.
you know, on those losses. I have a cousin, and he's my youngest first cousin. It's the same cousin who's real tall. In the last episode, I said, people always say, do you play basketball? That same cousin. Anyway, when you talk about people knowing stuff, I remember he was sitting in the back seat of the car, had to be about 2 years old, right?
Mhm.
And I made this left turn, and I didn't realize there was a dip in the road. So I hit it real fast. Car went boom, boom, boom. And he had been like asleep. He woke up and did just like this. Girl, you gonna mess up this car. I was like, who just woke up? And so I know, I really do. I hear you. I feel like some people, you know, they when they're real young, they must still tap in at some other time, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, that was fun.
It's funny.
Let's talk about accomplishments. I asked this
Okay.
question in 2 parts. First, what is an accomplishment that means the most to you personally? And then the second part of this question is, what's the accomplishment that when other people hear it, that's the one that tends to get the or wow. So, first part, which of your many accomplishments is the one that means the most to you, Demarcus?
One of my biggest accomplishments, I believe, is actually getting accepted into nursing school. A lot of people don't know the BSN is one of the top 3 hardest degrees to actually, finish. I feel like the odds were against me. 1, being a male, 2, being black, and 3, going into a female dominant position or
Mm-hmm.
profession. I rather say, especially back in 2002, 2003 when I applied for nursing school, and just defeating the odds. You know the statistics because they say this. Me being a black male at 16, I was going to be in a gang, 18 in jail. I was going to be dead by 21, and I defeated the odds. So I
Mm-hmm.
accomplished something that many didn't, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And now something that aha moment is when people be like, oh, so what are you doing now? Or where are you at now? 16 years later into this profession, I'm that same black man and I'm in a doctorate program. I'm in the program. I'm actually doing it. I'm 2 years out. So, and
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I even look up taking a test and I'll be like, wow, like I'm here, like I'm doing it. I'm actually doing what I set out to do.
Yeah.
It's so many naysayers and people, oh, he this, that he's just talking, he's not gonna do it. But I'm at the point in my life I don't want to talk about it no more. I'm just gonna show. It's just actions behind it now.
You know what? I one of the brothers, I remember he told me one of his favorite sayings was from his dad, and it was, "I can show you better than I can tell you."
Exactly. That's
Mm-hmm.
it. And sometimes you have to show people because people are gonna doubt you. They don't want you. They don't want to see you win. It's like they're still stuck in phases of their lives that they didn't accomplish anything. And my motto is, you shouldn't still be in the same place you were last week, last month, last year, 2, 3 years from now. You should be progressing. You shouldn't be in the same position, you know? But a lot of people are.
But a lot of people are. You know, and I say that with no judgment, because I was just in a conversation with a friend yesterday, and we were talking about some of the people we know and what we do. And we just realized, you know, living is kind of like, it's kind of like high school. You know, some people are in that AP program, honors program, and they constant, right? You laughing because you know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
Right. And then some people are like, you know what, as long as I finish, I'm good.
Hey, C's get you degrees.
Yep. So I actually want to ask you just a little bit more about that, because one of the reasons I specifically sought out interviewing a Black man who's in nursing is it is so rare. You know, I'm over 50, so I had a colonoscopy already. And I had never had a Black male nurse ever in my life that I can recall, not once. But why? When I go to get a dang on colonoscopy, that's the first time I see this tall, handsome nurse. It just was not cool.
It's funny you say that, because believe it or not, it's so many of us. So we have a lot of groups on Facebook. You got Black male nurses on Facebook. You got we have what's called Rapid Response, which is a group of Black male nurses, and we actually travel together. I've been to Italy with this group of guys. I've been to Africa with this group of guys. We've been to Puerto Rico, and we've traveled statewide. And before I joined this group, I didn't see a lot of me. I didn't. I'm like you, like, wow, like where did you come from? And it's actually a lot of us. We have scholarships, and we try to mentor African American males that's in college, that's undecided, that don't know what they want to do. Nursing is that's the way to go. I'm not going to tell you it's easy. It's probably by far one of the hardest things I've ever done and accomplished. Well, especially undergrad. It got a little easier, you know, grad, and it's kind of hard now. But undergrad, that was one of the hardest things ever. So I'm not going to sit there and tell you it's going to be easy, because it's not. But we're there to push, and help you along the journey, so, you know, so that you can accomplish it. So it's a lot of us out here.
Okay, well, see, now I got a couple things. I hope I don't lose track of these three thoughts that are circling like cups in the air. So the first one, let me pull the first one down, is, could you say the name of that organization again? I'll put a link in the show notes, but if you could just say the name again.
So you have what's called Rapid Response. Rapid Response is what we call in healthcare when someone goes into a code. So it's a Black male group on Facebook called Rapid Response. You have Black male nurses. You have the African American Male Nurses Association of the U.S. You have Male Nurses of the U.S., which black, brown, white, Puerto Rican. It's just all of us. It's just a group of male nurses, period. But specifically African American male nurses, it's a lot of us. And and I can send you some of those links to some of those groups.
So you say it's a lot of you. That's when y'all together. But in the whole field of nursing as a percentage.
Right. If I'm gonna say Black male nurses make up probably about, I'm gonna say 6 or 7% of nursing.
Okay.
Not a lot. It don't sound like a lot, but it's actually a lot.
That's consistent with the population in the United States, actually, because African Americans as a whole, male and female, make up about 13%. So 6.5%, you know, give or take, would be male. And so that's actually accurate representation.
Yeah, I'm gonna say about 5 or 6%, because it's.
Now, one of the things I want to throw in, first of all, the nursing profession has been among the top 10 growing professions for over a decade now. Everything healthcare is, you know, we need more because of both the growth of people who are living longer, the large baby boomer population, and then the fact that, quite frankly, the way we eat and live, we live longer, but we got more chronic illnesses.
More illnesses, right.
I do want to say, because you said it's one of the hardest, and I appreciate that you are talking specifically about the bachelor's. Not that the CNA isn't hard either, but there are all these levels, right? There's the CNA, the certified nursing assistant, which is a lot of students will start there. And then there's the AA, which would be the LVN, the licensed vocational nurse.
Right.
And then your bachelor's is going to be your registered nurse. That's like the next, that's the equivalent.
You have a lot of nurses still now that has the 2-year associate nursing, which they're trying to phase out the diploma nursing. So mainly it's basically they want, because most hospitals they want to go into what they're called magnet status, which they want you to have that bachelor's degree and be a bachelor's level. So, and they're giving a lot. I remember before I started traveling back in 2014, that a lot of these hospitals were giving 2-year nurses 2 and 3 years to finish their bachelor's.
Okay.
And it was paying for it, yeah.
And then my last question is, and it's funny, the only reason I know so much about nursing is because how I met Dr. Donna, my BFF, is when I was in law school and she was going into med school. And so we would do these workshops together. I would do pre-law and she would do pre-med. But for that bachelor's degree in nursing, it's a lot of science similar to like a pre-med, is it not?
Mm-hmm. So believe it or not, my major was pre-med biology.
See?
I shadowed an anesthesiologist, and I don't know what deterred me from going or even finishing, but I ended up talking to a friend, and he was like, "Why do you want to?" Another male, he's a nurse as well, but he's a white guy. Love him to death. One of my good friends. We finished together. He was like, "Mom's a nurse, and I'm going to nursing school," and I was like, "Me ain't going to nursing?" He's like, "Yeah, come on, be a nurse." I was like, and like you said, those, like, you have to finish all those prerequisites. I had to have D.N.P. 1 and 2, biology, chemistry, microbiology, anatomy and physiology 1 and 2. So finishing those courses to actually go into the pre-med program, I actually deterred and applied for the nursing program and got right in.
Yeah.
And I don't regret it at all. I don't regret it at all.
This is the last question I ask specific to nursing, at least as far as I can see for now. What is it that you love about being a nurse?
Me personally, I've always been that guy to help people. My mama tell you that now. I've always been a helpful hand, but never had any nurses in my family growing up. Really never knew any nurses. I just got into the profession and just that gift of helping and wanting to help. And I guess I'm just an emotional person. I'm just sensitive, and I just want people to just feel better. I remember starting out, I worked in oncology and hematology. I worked at a cancer clinic, and that was probably one of the hardest jobs I ever had. Because they're here today, gone tomorrow, and I always just wanted to be a helpful hand and be that bright and shining guy that when they walk in, and people tell you I just have this big bubbly personality. I'm just laugh a lot. I'm loud. I'm just life of the party, and I'm that person at work too. I'm everybody's on a first name basis. Nursing is the best thing that I think I've ever done. That was the best decision of my life. I don't regret any of it. I just love what I do. I just love what I do.
I so love hearing all of that. Firstly, I feel the same way about being a teacher. Like there are other things I could have done, but teaching is like, and it's not even work. It's like I show up and sometimes I'll be like, dang, y'all paying me for this, for real?
Right.
Right. And then the other thing though, about what you're saying is when you're not feeling good, when you're in the hospital, because I've had things happen, you know what I mean? And a good nurse, because the doctor's just in, getting your stuff, find out your information, they in and out. They got rounds, you know what I mean? But that nurse can really make a difference if you're, staying at the hospital.
Right.
And, answers the questions, you know what I mean? Like really keeps you comforted and gives you that space for the healing to happen. So, and that's what I hear that you are committed to, is providing that space of healing.
Right.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because when patients come in, you're already nervous, you're scared, you don't know what the outcome is going to be. So it's like I want to be that joy, that fun person, because I like to come in and I always have a smile on my face. I'm gonna introduce myself. I'm gonna shake your hand. I'm gonna know your whole life story in 5 minutes. This is me.
Mhm.
We gonna talk. I'm audible. We gonna talk. I'm gonna know everything about. I'm gonna know all your kids and your grandkids, especially those older patients. I just try to give you that sense of comfort because all nurses are not like that. You got those. You got some that come in and they just don't care. Okay, I'm here for the money. Let me do my job and go. So, and I don't want to. 16 years later, I don't want to be that person. I haven't become that person, and that's not the plan to be that.
Yeah, I hear you. I love it. I love it. All right, well, let's go on. So then my next question is, what is a favorite quote, saying, a metaphor, or your favorite book? And why?
My favorite quote is "The tassel is worth the hassle," because it's worth it. You know, you going through program like right now. I'm going through this doctorate program, and my goal is to get that tassel. I want those three stripes on the side of my road. You know, so I'm going through the hassle. I'm going through the everyday hustle and bustle of this, so I can get that tassel. So at the end of the day, the hassle is worth the tassel.
You know what? See, I'm gonna have to get that printed up and put it in my classroom because the kids, it's like we're constantly saying, it's really important that you get your diploma. La, 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 la,
Right.
And it's like I just could see that on my wall right now. The tassel is worth the hassle. Bam.
No, the hassle
Simple,
is worth
clear.
the tassel. Yeah. Right.
I love it.
And I think I've read so many books in my day, but I'm gonna go back to I believe 9th, 10th grade when I read the book, The Coldest Winter Ever. So, have you ever read that book?
The which one?
The Coldest Winter Ever.
No.
You haven't read The Coldest Winter Ever? I probably read the book like 3 times in high school. I cannot think of the author's name, but I'm gonna get it. Sister Soldier. I cannot believe you haven't read The Coldest Winter Ever. You have to read it. So it's basically telling the story of this little black girl who grew up. Mom and dad was like in a drug gang, and her dad was a big dope man, and mom was like a big prostitute. And then she kind of came up behind them, and she got in the gang. And she ended up getting caught up. But just the story, it was supposed to be a movie made, and Jada Pinkett was gonna play her, but they never made it. But I suggest you read that book. It is by far one of the best books ever. It's called The Coldest Winter Ever. The girl name in the book was Winter. That was her name. By Sister Soldier. Oh my gosh, by far one of the best. And I've read so many books, so many books. So
what is it about it? What is it about it? Because you've given us an idea of what it is about, but what is it for you that you, one, read it more than once, and two, so highly recommend it?
She grew up in this lifestyle where she thought, oh, my dad was this big dope man, my mom was this big prostitute, they got all this money. And then she came behind and ended up being like following in her family's footsteps. And then in the end, she ended up getting caught up. She got robbed. She was dating a guy. She got set up, and she ended up doing like life in jail. And it's just one of those books you have to read. Yeah, it was just one of those books that always stuck out to me.
Okay.
And like I said, I read it like 2 or 3 times within like years. It's funny you asked it because in our day, that's what we did. We didn't have social media. We didn't have as much access to the internet and all these ebooks as they have now. Like we had to go to the library and actually check them out or go to Barnes and Noble and buy these books. Even now in this doctorate program, I see myself going to the Oakland Library often because I need other resources. And it's just something about having that book in my hand and turning that page and highlighting. I was so accustomed to doing it. It stuck with me.
Yeah. There is a difference between reading the actual book and turning the page versus just the digital ebook.
Exactly.
Yeah, there is a difference. It's a different experience. All right. Well, let me ask you about what is a moment, conversation, or event that either changed the trajectory of your life or it had a significant impact on your life?
The day I found out my mom had cancer in 2001, it changed a lot. I graduated high school 2002. 2001, I got accepted to Xavier University. I got accepted to Florida A&M University, Dillard University, and Howard University. I had all my colleges lined up. I was like, okay, I'm going to one of these HBCUs. This is what I'm going to do, blah, blah, blah. Bam. My mom got cancer. Mm-hmm. It changed the game. I was that afraid to leave. So all of those schools is out. I'm staying home. I'm going to University of Memphis. I want to be with my mom. I couldn't leave my mom. So that was a game changer right there. Because my goal was to leave. I always wanted to. And my mom was military, so she always wanted us to go and see the world and travel. And I think that's where I get that from. I've been to 5 of the 7 continents, and my mom's always pushing me to go. Yeah. No, don't sit here. Go see the world. It's too much world. I've been to Africa like 7 times. I plan on going to visit every country in Africa. That's my goal. Wow. Visit every country in Africa. So wow. My mom getting sick changed the game. Even though she survived, I thank and praise God for that. But it changed the direction of which route I was going to take for my education. But I don't regret any of it. I'm so grateful. I feel like any college you go to, I mean, you make your own experiences. It's about how you handle the situation. And I had a great experience in college. So that was a game changer for me.
I'm curious. I remember after Donna went on to medical school, I actually continued to do both pre-law and pre-med advising. And I remember discovering that a lot of the students who were pre-med had someone in their life who had, a significant interaction with the medical profession, like some kind of hospitalization. And it had changed their direction from being interested in whatever the other things were into medicine. Was that true for you?
I've always wanted to go into medicine, but I believe that really pushed me more because at one point I was undecided and I was thinking about listening to another friend and watching him. He ended up doing an international business route and he's actually in Japan to this day teaching English. And I was like, oh, that'll be fun. It's something I can do. I can teach out of the country. They'll pay for my living, even though it don't pay as much. But seeing my mom go through surgery and going through chemo and, being there with her, it just brought me back to what I really originally wanted to do, which is medicine. And I'm so glad I stuck with it. I don't regret any of it.
Well, I'm so glad your mom survived it.
And, I'm so grateful, thankful. And with my brother, he ended up becoming an EMT paramedic. And he wanted to be like a police or do something else. And he ended up going the medical route as well. So
yeah. I noticed that back in the day that happened. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, no problem.
So my next question, what is a moment that either highlights or in some way signifies your experience as a Black man in the United States?
Just going to work every day and being looked at as, I'm a nurse, but I'm being looked at as the EVS guy or the cook or can you get my nurse? I am your nurse. This white man just, oh, you a nurse? I try not to take offense by it or let it bother me so much, but deep down it does. Because you see my badge that says RN, BSN on it. Yeah, you're going to ask me for a nurse. Or you're going to ask me, you know what I'm saying? So it makes you feel like they looking down. It's me personally, I grew up in Tennessee, lived in Florida, visited Arkansas, Alabama, Arkansas all the time with family. I've never really experienced racism to my face. I've been the only Black guy in rooms plenty of time. But at the end of the day, in the back of my mind, I'm still wondering, what are they thinking or what are they saying? So being in certain situations and seeing how, okay, this person, you talk to this person this way, or I'm getting greeted or talked to this way, it makes me realize that you're still a Black man in the United States, no matter what, even though it's 2022 and sometimes you feel like you're still in 1962, you know what I'm saying? But certain things just don't change. So moments like being at work and being asked for your nurse or can you clean this up? It makes me like, I'm not going to say the word, but you know what they're thinking in here. You just,
yeah, I do. I do. I really appreciate you being so specific and saying, you can see their eye go to your badge and you see that they registered nurse.
Right.
And it's like, it's so, and it's almost like you wonder, okay, do you need to insult me? Is
exactly.
it right? Like, is it your intention to let me know that you don't think I could be a nurse?
Or it's been instances where I've been pulled from patients. Oh, she requested this nurse or requested another. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, several times. So I'm an OR nurse. I work in surgery. So I've come down to the ER to pick up patients, and it's in Jacksonville, Florida, and been called the N-word to my face. Doctors pull me aside and they more apologetic, and oh, I'm not gonna react. I'm not gonna give them the satisfaction that I'm not gonna give them what they want, because I know that's what they expect of me. That's what they want me to do. So I'm not gonna give it to them. I'm gonna laugh it off, okay. But you know, it hurts, and it's like I'm here to do a service. I'm here to help you, and this is thanks I get, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm sure you and a lot of others have experienced it. But like I
I'll
said,
tell you
growing up in Tennessee, going to Mississippi, Florida, I've never got that. Felt like I was being racially profiled or experienced racism until that one moment, and that was here in California.
You know, and I try to remind myself that. Well, I don't try to remind myself. I make it a point to remind myself that that's their illness, not mine.
Yeah.
You know, I especially love how you said, you know, I know they want a reaction.
They do.
I'm not giving them that. And, you know, I get it. And
it's going to be
exactly. What about interactions with law enforcement?
I've never had an incident with law enforcement where I felt like I was being racially profiled. A few speeding tickets, but that's it.
Yeah, good.
I just knock on wood. I don't want it to happen today, tomorrow, 6 weeks from now. And funny enough, I was going to Target because I was going to get lunch before. I got followed from the intersection all the way to Target. And when I parked, they just drove past me. And you asking me that question, I'm wondering, like, would they have followed me to work, or would they have what could that situation, what could have happened? And this was just 2 days ago. Up until then, I've never encountered anything with law enforcement. Never. And I just thank and praise God, because it's scary. I've heard other males tell me experiences and things, and it's like being handcuffed and car being searched, and it's just it's scary. It's scary.
And I think I really appreciate you saying all of that, because one of the things that I ended up learning that I feel like, oh, I should have known, but I didn't, was the collective trauma of police stops. That even if you go until you're 75 without being stopped, a large percentage of Black men who've never had a negative experience are still concerned about that possibility whenever they see a police car.
Exactly. Whether it's a Black cop, Spanish cop, white cop. I
don't think, because I'm saying it as someone who's now, 130 something conversations in, and it's still a bit much to wrap my head around, that what the average American thinks and feels when they see a police car is so not the average experience for a Black male. And I don't mean that like, oh, woe is us or anything like that, but it's just the reality of how different that experience is upon seeing what has been sold as, well, the police come to help. Right. And when there's a whole collective whose experience is not that. And I think what really bothers me is the folks who don't get that, who won't accept that, who won't allow themselves to admit that it is a different experience. And it has nothing to do with what you've done.
Right. But I don't want to say all police are bad.
Yeah, no, they're not.
There's an action to every action. You don't have to react to every action. I remember, I think this was last year. I was driving to work, and I work nights, 11 p 7 a. Just when I was working before I started school, and I was running late, and I got off on the exit, and I went in between two cars because they was going side by side, and I was like, somebody go, like go. They went. I went around and jumped in front. Didn't see the police. Police got behind me. So okay. That was me. I was wrong. I can't fault the police for getting behind me. But the crazy part is I got pulled over. They asked me to roll all my windows down. I kept my hand on the steering wheel. I had on scrubs, a stethoscope, and a badge that said registered nurse. He was like, really? Big white boy. He was like, I was like, sir, I am running late for work. I'm so sorry. He's like, did you know you? I said, I know exactly what I did. I own what I did, and he let me go. No ticket. He was like, and I believe it was because I was in uniform. Because if I would have just been, and I drive a red Lexus, and he kept saying, this is a nice car, and I should get it towed. But he was just like, I'm gonna let you go because you're a healthcare worker. But he's like, you can't do that no more. But I do believe that if I wasn't in uniform, I had the badge or the stethoscope on, it would have been a totally different story.
Yeah, right.
I had to own my wrong in it because he had every right to pull me over. I was wrong for everything I did.
You're right. And I've said this before in different episodes. It's not about vilifying the police, but it is about acknowledging that even if it's only, I'm going to go real low and say, let's say it's only 1% of officers who are antagonistic, biased, and kind of harsh in how they interact with African-American men. Even if it's just 1%, that the impact on it, though, as a collective is distinct from the impact. It's even distinct for me as a woman. It's like, I never, you know what I mean?
Yeah, because
I'm Black, but when I get stopped, from the conversations I've had with brothers, I know I don't have the same concerns,
Yeah. And Sandra Bland probably didn't think she had the same concern.
That's
but
true too.
I feel like we have to protect our women just like we have to protect our men. Because and I feel like if you are always scared for your life and you're afraid, you need to find another career. You find something that you're not scared to do. Go get you an IT job. Go get you a 9 to 5 behind a desk because obviously policing is not for you.
Get something you're not scared to do. Okay.
Yeah,
I like that.
That's the only defense. Oh, I was afraid for my life. Hell, I'll be afraid. We get mental patients all the time coming in, attacking us and fighting. We have to hold them down. I'm afraid for my life. I never know when a patient will come in with a gun and shoot up the hospital, So why don't we get the protection we get as teachers and healthcare workers like the police? They always, I was afraid for my life. Hell, you don't know them. Some students could come in on their high horse one day and just shoot up. How many times it don't happen?
Yeah, I've been dumb enough to see two girls fighting and go in, and then I was like, oh wait, I am not.
Exactly.
I can be hurt just like anybody else, and I'm older now, so let me just, I let campus security.
Yeah, you just got to let. That is out of my job description.
Right. Look, especially when you get older and you realize, okay, these bones, they not the same.
They don't work the way. Exactly.
You know what I mean? No, security.
Hurry up. Exactly. See?
All right. So this next question is, if the United States was a woman with whom you could speak, whether she's a mother, a lover, a stranger, neighbor, a friend, your choice. If the U.S. was a woman, what would you say to her?
I would thank that woman. I would thank her for being a strong, because women are strong. People I must say, especially in the workforce, women don't get the fairness or they don't get the equality as men. And even now, and it goes with pay and promotions. So I'm gonna thank that woman for being as strong as she is and for enduring what she goes through. I would ask her, can I buy you a drink? Can I buy you a drink?
You bought her a drink. What would you ask her? What'd you sit down and say, girl, let me talk to you for a minute?
When are you gonna trash these student loans? I need you to defer them forever. Can you defer my student loans forever? When are you going to defer these student loans and just cross it out? I'm tired of paying you. I need a free education.
Right? Look, you know what? They tried, in the state of California, we got a committee out here who's trying to figure out, come up with some form of reparations for African-American Californians who can prove ancestry back to pre-1900. And I've heard that people like, how about cancel my student loans? Like cancel for real.
Student loans, baby. Scratch them out.
Make this education free. I've also heard, one of the people who told me that was, I think they were sharing with me that they had listened in on a discussion. Maybe it was a radio chat. I don't know what it was, but someone had said, yeah, you know what? How about making my education free instead of me paying all these loans? That would be great.
Exactly.
And someone else called in and said, well, I don't think that's fair because everyone else has to pay their student loans. It's like, yeah, but you're paying them with money that may have, maybe your parents, could help you out because they own a house bought in the 50s, 60s, or 70s when there was still redlining, which was actually a government FHA program to limit the, home buying for African Americans. It's like there are so many ways that the laws in this nation impacted Black wealth that, most people just don't understand or get. So, but hey, we can't educate everybody on everything. Some things you gotta look up for yourself.
Exactly.
We already know there's a special bond with you and your brother, you and your mom. Like we can hear all that love.
Right.
But, outside of family relationships, what is an example of what is a moment that exemplifies love for you?
When I first came out to the Bay Area, I developed what's called Shigella. And it was a stomach virus. And it was, I guess, the way the intern, she told me it was from San Francisco, the city being so dirty. She was like, you could just touch the rail or touch the bottom of your shoe and then probably ate something without washing my hands or something like that. And it was like real bad. It got to the point where I had to be hospitalized. And
what is it for? Because I don't have any idea.
So Shigella is like it's a bacterial disease. It's a gastric disease, rather.
Okay, so gotcha.
It's a real bad gastric disease. And it actually got my white count up. So I almost went into kidney failure. That's how bad it was. Like I was so dehydrated. And it got to the point they wanted to put me in ICU. And I was like, no. I'm out here. I'm a travel nurse out here by myself. I'm in the hospital. I'm scared to tell my mom them what's really going on because they're gonna want to rush out here. But I remember laying there and two of my coworkers that, mind you, I'm a travel nurse. I don't know these people. They came in and they had like bags of Gatorade and T-shirts and cards and balloons. And I was just like, what are y'all doing? They was just like, we're travelers, we have to stick together, and we heard you were sick, and we wanted to show you that I just felt the love coming from them because, mind you, these are people I just met, probably knew for a week or two. And it just always make me think about, wow, people, they don't have to know you or have to do things, but they show you that they love. Like, that was a way of them showing me that they cared and loved me, and they didn't even know me. So that's an example of love. That's a memory. That's something I never forgot. I've never forgotten that moment. So there was the example there.
One of the things that I hear in a few of your answers, a couple of them, is community. You clearly appreciate and revere even the strong community of Black nurses, Black male nurses, but just, and then in this answer, the nursing community generally, right? And so the sense that I get is like, yeah, just that the nursing community can be really tight.
Right.
Yeah.
Very tight. Awesome. We stick together.
That's great. Fantastic. This next question is, if you can spend 5 hours with any other Black man, living or deceased, who would you choose and what would you talk about or what would you do?
If I can go back in time and spend 5 hours with anybody, it would be with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I just feel like his passion and his willing to put his life on the line for equal opportunity and rights for our people, it's just amazing. I would ask him, where did he get that confidence, or well, where did he get that mind frame, or what made you want to do this? What was it? What was it? What was their last straw that pushed you to know this needs to be equal? We need the same rights as all these people. Like, where did this come from? Because a lot of us don't have that. And I feel like a lot of men, especially African American, we're kind of scared. We get complacent, we get stuck in our ways. And
Mhm.
Dr. Martin Luther King wasn't. He wasn't afraid to speak. He wasn't afraid to tell his story. He wasn't afraid to march for what was right. And I would like to march on Washington with him. I would like to
Wow.
turn back the hands of time. If I can go back to any moment, it would be one of those moments.
That's
I just
awesome.
growing up watching those movies and reading those stories, it's just like, wow. It's just like make you think. And it's funny because people are like, oh, when you do read history, it always be like in the 18th. This was just like 50, 60 years ago. This is when my mom was born. You know what I'm saying? This was in my grandparents' era. So they remember this stuff. It's like if I could just go back, turn back the hands of time, just spend 5 hours in an era, it would be the March on Washington with Martin Luther King Jr.
Brilliant. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that would be cool. I especially love how you were like, if I'm gonna spend 5 hours, let me tell you what we're gonna do. I'm gonna be there.
Right, because I feel like right now at this point, at this moment in my life, just say this never happened. Just say we didn't have a Martin Luther King, or we never had those marches. Would I be a nurse? Would I have a master's? Would I be in a doctorate program? You know, I don't. We don't know. If he wouldn't have made those sacrifices for us, what would the world be like? You know, so I'm grateful and I thank him for all his sacrifices.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, that whole generation. I personally think a lot of it had to do with having so many men and women participate in supporting this nation in World War II and the fight against the Axis powers, Japan, Germany, and Italy. Although we primarily were most remember Germany and Japan. You know, brothers putting their lives on the line, women here at home sacrificing to support the men who volunteer, and then supporting the war effort in the different ways they did by going into factories. That when the World War II ended and we saw how the Germans had treated the Jews,
Right.
right? And then you come back and then somebody's still treating you like you second class,
Right.
but you just fought against people being treated like that and worse.
Exactly.
It was like, I think that also imbued that generation with a, no, y'all tripping. We just fought
Mhm.
shit like this. Excuse me.
We can't.
I
Yeah,
didn't
and
mean
it's
to go
like
curse, but
we're going back to it. No,
right. Wait, why would we put our lives on the line to fight against it there, but accept craziness
except it
here?
here.
That don't make no
Exactly.
sense. That don't make no
No,
sense. And so I think
exactly.
that, got that whole generation going. And I also appreciate how you're pointing out that it was just the 60s, because I was born, I'm not going to say my exact year, but I
Right.
was born in the 60s. Martin Luther King was still breathing when I came on the planet, is all I'm going to say,
Exactly. My mom was a little girl, so hey,
This isn't ancient history.
it's not.
Um,
It's not.
no. So the last question that I ask is this. Now that you and I have had this conversation, Demarcus, what did you get for yourself personally out of participating in this conversation?
Me personally, I got to meet a new friend.
Yep, definitely.
I got to tell the people what's going on in my life, in my world, strangers, people that I probably would never meet, and they get to watch this. So I'm grateful for it. I'm honored that you invited me on your show, and I thank you for that. This is my first podcast, so I can't wait to see it. At this point, at this moment in my life, I'm happy, I'm grateful, I'm thankful, and just thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, I'm always left with an impression of every brother. And I got to say, everything about you is just boundless joy.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, boundless joy.
Boundless joy, I like that.
Right. And I'm so glad to know that you are an example to other nurses, because even those nurses who are there to punch a clock and get a check, that kind of joy is infectious, and it rubs off in little ways. Right? You see, I know you see it when it happens. They might smile actually at a patient instead of just growling. So I thank you for being that example in the health field and in hospitals, because it makes it a better experience for those of us who, at some point in our time, so many of us will find ourselves there.
We will. You're welcome. Yeah, we will.
All right. And then, so viewers, I just want to encourage you to subscribe if you haven't subscribed to 365 Brothers, the podcast. And please make sure you leave a comment. You can tell us anything that you got from listening to this interview, something you learned from this conversation between Demarcus and I. And I just want to thank you for spending the time to listen to 365 Brothers. Have a wonderful day.
Remember, you can follow us on Instagram at 365 Brothers. Also, follow us on Facebook at 365 Brothers, the podcast. Lastly, I just want to let you know, producing a podcast, it takes something, and I'm really grateful to have partnered with alitu.com. They make publishing easy. There's a link in the show notes for anyone who either has a podcast or is thinking about a podcast. You don't need to learn all that sound balancing and compression. Save all that. Use your time for what matters, interviewing and sharing the stories that your podcast brings. Thank you for listening to 365 Brothers. I certainly hope you enjoyed the episode. I encourage you to subscribe. Please leave a review. I want to know what you think. Also, if you know someone who would be a fantastic guest for 365 Brothers, please direct them to our website, 365brothers.com. You'll also find all the episodes there, 365brothers.com. And your support is